So today we're going to look at fridges, and this is a Bushman fridge, the one I chose, but I'll talk a little bit about some of the things you need to consider when you buy a fridge for off-road. So obviously the size of your vehicle and where you're going to put it is a major consideration. We're not towing anything, so this has got to go in the vehicle, so we really were sort of fairly limited. This is the SC35-52. And that means it goes from 35 when you take off some of the top parts, and you go down. And then when you put them on, you can go all the way up to 52 liters. So it's a single unit, so there's no separate fridge freezer, and that's probably one of the considerations you need to make. Do you want one with two compartments, fridge freezer? A lot of people sort of say hum and ah about it. I decided not to, because really I wanted to use all the space in a more economical way. I suppose if you've got more space, you could get a bigger unit with separate ones. That might be quite good. Anyway, coming back to the big consideration is current. So if you stick this in the back of your car and you've got a 12-volt socket in the back of your car, then you might be able to plug it in and you might be able to get working, and most of them come with, and this one does, with a 12-volt connector. However, the thing is, those 12-volt sockets in the back of your car are not rated very high. So, and this is where the consideration of the units comes in. But yes, you can put auxiliary wiring in, you might have a dual battery system. So, but a lot of people I know have tried to plug them in, and some work, some don't. And the reason for that is all to do with starting current and running current. So when a compressor motor in a fridge starts, it draws quite heavy current, and it needs that current to kick itself off. So in some cases you can be looking to 8-9 amps at 12 volts. That's a fairly substantial current to be pulling from the back of your vehicle, based on the distance as well. And remember, you've got voltage drop across the length of your cable to the back of the car as well. So that is why sometimes you'll get a unit that will work and sometimes a unit that won't work in the back, based on the standard wiring. Of course, you can put additional wiring in, and you probably should for a fridge, to be honest with you, because the standard wiring really is not designed to pull the sort of current that these units need to start up. Once they get up and start up and they're running, they draw a lot less current. So that's pretty, that is a consideration, and you need to think about that. So you need to probably check your starting current and your running current of a fridge. And again, you have to look at averages, because every time the compressor starts up, it obviously draws that current. So as it cycles on and off, the compressor goes off and then restarts again, and the thermostat kicks it in, so it's constantly going on and off. Obviously the biggest draw is when the unit is warm and you plug it in for the first time. So that's the first consideration. The second consideration is your average running current. So most of the manufacturers will quote you a figure in amp hours, and it's worth noting those figures to understand how much runtime you're going to get from them. So this particular unit has an average running current draw of 0.67 amp hours, and their website tells you it's 25 degrees and blah 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 on the 52 litre size, ambient temperatures and all that. So that's very important to know. You've got to have a benchmark, you've got to have a figure somewhere. So at 0.67, you can, and you have to think you're going to have an auxiliary battery probably running this. So when your engine's not running, how long is it going to last? So with an auxiliary battery at, let's say, 100 amp hours, and this is going to draw 0.67. So we worked that out, and that's a running time of 75 hours for this fridge, or just over 3 days. That's a pretty good run time, I'm sure you'll agree, with the 100 amp hour second battery. So let's just give you a bit of a comparison, and not slagging off anybody else, they're all really good fridges, but you do need to compare with something. So the Dometic CFX3 55 litres, so trying to just get something about the same size as this, just to look at how it compares. You're looking at running current of 1.1 amp hours. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you work that out, that's only 45 hours running time. So you only get 45 hours as a comparison. So this, as you can imagine, is a lot more efficient to run, and that's less than 2 days. You probably turn around and go, well, that's fine, and I agree. You know, that's the thing you need to consider is, you know, how long do you need and what do you need. The other thing I considered, because the running current on this is really low, and it's one of the selling points of this particular fridge, is that, you know, when you are running auxiliary equipment as well, like lights and things when you're camping, you know, you won't have to worry too much about draining your battery quite so much every night, and the recharge, you know, during the day. So, you know, it gives you a bit of comfort to think that this particular fridge draws a lot less current, and as I said, that's what they pride themselves on, is it's very low in current draw. And then of course you consider in your wiring in your car, so if you're going to put in additional wiring, then you can consider this runs at a lower current draw than other devices in the back of your vehicle. Anyway, enough said on current and current draws, because as I said, that's a really important consideration for you. If you've got a big trailer or a caravan and you've got big batteries and you've got solar and everything, you don't care about that, great. I'd go for something big. In fact, to be honest with you, I wouldn't go for this if I had a trailer with a lot more power in terms of battery storage and solar. I wouldn't. I would have gone for a much bigger dual unit probably, but I don't have that space or that luxury, so I went with this. So it comes with a 12 volt connector that's on a cable that plugs in. It also comes with a mains connector, so when you're in the house you can plug it in. You actually connect it to the 12 volt connector, so and that's how you plug it in, and you just unplug it when you're ready. What I usually do is put this in the car, or in the car maybe the day before we want to leave, and I just run it off a mains plug. So that's what I do with that. When you're in the car, obviously you can just put that straight into the cigarette lighter in the back of the car, and obviously I'll put an additional one in for my car, and I'll take you through that one day, but not today. So the actual unit itself, at the moment you're seeing it in the 52 litre configuration, and I may have to lift you up in a minute to have a look, but I'll show you first. And one of the things, the other reason we chose this one was because of the baskets. The baskets enable you to lift stuff out without having to move everything out of the way one by one. You know, especially for my wife, she decided that she really liked the idea of being able to lift out baskets to get at something underneath very quickly, and then just put the basket back in, and then put the next one back in, and they're all still full of stuff, and then you can close the lid quite quickly. And we really like that idea, because one of the problems obviously with a single compartment fridge is that when you load it up, you know, everything's, the thing you want is obviously usually at the bottom, so you've got to take everything out and put it all back. So this is a really nice feature. We really like that part, and that makes it much quicker to find things, and you can really squeeze it in. The only problem with this is you've got to pack each basket so it doesn't overflow too much, because otherwise you can't get the baskets in. So it's a pretty, you know, you've got to be good at packing, but you probably have anyway if you're going off-road. So but that's that. And as I said, this is different sizes, so you can take the lid off, and the lid just comes off. And what you do, and they've got a video on their website for this, but you can basically take the different levels off, and you can change the height and put the lid back on at a smaller level if you want a smaller unit. And as I said, the Bushman website has all this fairly well covered, probably do it much better than I do it, but you can have a smaller unit like that, and that's a smaller capacity. Then you can fit in another basket, not all of the baskets obviously, once you go down to that sort of size. I'll take you around the unit now, take you a bit close up. So close up now, just show you inside. So the baskets are all in, as I said. Each of those comes out, and then you can pack, as I said, and get it in. The only thing is, I've noticed, is that you, as I said to you, not only have you got to pack everything in really nicely so the baskets sit down properly, because if they don't, you won't get the lid shut. It's also a bit tricky. This top basket also, sometimes you need to get it the right way round. Sometimes you get it the wrong way round and it doesn't shut properly. Or I know these hinges are really good in terms of being able to take them off quickly, but if the lid slides just a little bit, and it does often, you can't close it, so you have to just keep making sure the lid is fully located on the hinge. So nothing major, but worth remembering. As I said, once it's all in, you can lock it down and the lid's good to go. So in terms of controls, there's not much really to do. No app, nothing like that I'm aware of, and to be honest with you, the less technology the better when you're on the road. So simple on off button, and you've got literally, you set your temperature here, hold that button down and you go up or down, and then there's a max cool button, which I've never used because I usually get my fridge running well and truly before we load it up. And that is it really. So we've run it about -6 in the summer, and this is one of the things you have to get used to, is that you use the height to change the way you store stuff. So your colder stuff's at the bottom and your warmer stuff's at the top, and it's very clever design actually. So when we've had it at -6, you can keep stuff frozen on the bottom, and then as you work your way up, your fruit and veg sits on the top because that's the warmest part, and that makes a lot of sense because your cold stuff is really really cold stuff's at the bottom, and it cools obviously in that way, and obviously when you open the lid, the warmer stuff at the top, blah blah blah. But it is worth remembering that you pack all your really icy frozen stuff at the bottom. I have to say, if we put in sort of ice suckers for the kids at the bottom, we struggle to keep those frozen. Frozen food does stay frozen alright, but we probably struggled with that. Maybe we need to turn it down more. We're still probably experimenting. We've had this about 9 months now. I'm taking it on a few trips. One thing I do like is this tall compartment here where you can get a full height milk bottle in there, or we don't drink Coke, but I guess you could get a fizzy drink bottle in there as well, and that's quite useful because that can go down the side and you can still lift the baskets in and out, and I like that very much. The only other thing to mention is that it's got some really good tie down here, so this is really good for tying down when you're in the vehicle. So it's got, at each side you've got those, and the carrying handle as well, which is really good. And as I said, that's where the power connector connects, and that's the same one as we said, whether you're using on AC or DC, you just use the connector here that I spoke about. It comes with this cover, which is good, so you can see we keep that on. There is one for the top section. I've taken it off for now whilst we show you around, but that's why it's quite clean on the top. Yeah, that's about it really. As I said, this is the Bushman one. I'll put a link to it on in the description. We're very happy with it. It certainly is very economical to run, certainly doesn't draw a lot of current. I would say, as I said to you earlier, that if I had more space I probably would go for something different. I think when you've got limited space and you're conscious of your power draw, then this is an excellent option, no doubt about it. It's not the cheapest out there, but you know the old saying, get what you pay for. We're certainly very happy with it. As I said, the quality is good, and the running is excellent. So thank you for watching.